Hello, Urban Saints. Today's story is called Time to Go Home. For 70 years, the Jews had been away from their home. They'd been taken to live in a place called Babylon. Now it had a new king, King Cyrus, and the country had a new name, Persia. The old people still remembered the beautiful temple in Jerusalem. The young people had never even seen Jerusalem, but they wanted to go there because their parents always talked about how wonderful it was. Some of the people remembered the promise that God had made years ago, that after 70 years the people would go back to Jerusalem. The old kings had made the people stay in Babylon, but now God worked in the heart of the new king, and Cyrus decided to let the Jews return to Jerusalem. He even sent money and supplies to help them rebuild the temple. God kept his promise. After 70 years, the Jews were going home. A man named Zerubbabel led the people to Jerusalem. But when they arrived, they discovered the beautiful temple of the Lord was just a pile of stones. The people had to begin to build the temple all over again so they could have somewhere to worship God. It was hard work and took a long time. But finally, the temple was finished and they had a big celebration. Many years passed. Not all of the Jews were in Jerusalem. Some of them were still back in Persia. Nehemiah was a Jew who lived in Persia, where he worked in the palace. Nehemiah had a very important job. He was the cupbearer for the king, which meant he had to bring the king his wine and taste it first to make sure there was no poison in it. Even though Nehemiah had never been to Jerusalem, he really wanted to go. His brother had been there and had told Nehemiah about it. Nehemiah's brother said that even though the temple had been built in Jerusalem, there was something very important still missing. The big wall that used to surround Jerusalem still needed to be fixed. It was crumbling and falling down. One day, when Nehemiah took the king his wine, he had a sad frown on his face. "Why do you look so sad?" asked the king. Nehemiah explained about the walls in Jerusalem, and he asked the king to let him go to help rebuild them. The king thought long and hard. He liked Nehemiah, so he gave him permission to go, and he even sent supplies and soldiers to protect him. When they arrived in Jerusalem, Nehemiah made a special trip around the city to have a look at the walls. He saw everything that needed to be fixed. He organised the people to work on small sections of the wall, and lots of them volunteered to help. Everyone worked very hard, but soon their work was interrupted by enemies. Sometimes they had to work with a hammer in one hand and a sword in the other. But the workers did not stop. Nehemiah kept praying that God would help them to do the right thing. Finally, the wall was finished. The people had safe houses to live in and a temple to worship God. It was time for a special day of celebration. Everyone was thankful to God for what he had done for them. God had kept his promise, and they were back home at last.